In 2016, a wealth management firm called GPB Capital raised over $1.8 billion from everyday investors. They promised stable returns, professional guidance, someone in your corner. By 2021, the SEC had charged them with fraud. Investors lost hundreds of millions, and the brokers who sold those products had been paid secret commissions to do it. They weren't advisors. They were salespeople with a psychology playbook, and you were the target. Last video we showed you how banks trap you in debt. Today, we go deeper. Because the people you hire to protect your money are often the ones most trained to take it. Here's something the financial advisory industry doesn't advertise. The first meeting with a wealth manager is not about your money, it's about your psychology. There's a technique called rapport anchoring, used extensively in high-end financial sales, where an advisor mirrors your body language, asks questions about your family, your fears, your legacy. Not because they care, because the more personal information you share, the harder it is to leave. This is documented. A 2022 study from the University of Chicago found that clients who disclosed personal life information to financial advisors were 61% less likely to switch firms, even when they were consistently underperforming the market. They weren't staying because of results. They were staying because leaving felt like ending a friendship. And that feeling was engineered. The industry even has a name for it. They call it relationship capital. The more relationship capital an advisor builds, the less their actual performance matters. You think you have an advisor, you have a retention strategy with a license. But wealth managers are just the beginning. What real estate agents do with psychology is even more immediate, and it happens while the clock is ticking. Buying a home is the largest financial decision most people will ever make. And real estate agents know that a person standing inside a house they love is one of the most psychologically vulnerable humans on the planet. Here's what they're trained to do with that. The first tactic is called artificial urgency. There are 2 other offers coming in this weekend. The seller is looking at everything by Sunday. Whether those offers exist or not, your brain doesn't know the difference. Cortisol spikes, the fear of loss takes over, and you make a decision under pressure that you'd never make with a clear head. In 2023, the National Association of Realtors paid a landmark $418 million settlement after being found guilty of conspiring to artificially inflate agent commissions. The commission structure itself was ruled to be a coordinated manipulation of the market. That's not a rogue agent. That's a systemic design. The second tactic is future pacing. While you're touring a home, a skilled agent isn't describing the house. They're describing your life inside it. Can you picture your kids running through this backyard? This is the kitchen where you'd host Thanksgiving. They're not selling you square footage. They're selling you an identity, a future, a feeling. And once that future is in your head, the price stops mattering. And when the deal gets to the negotiating table, that's where a completely different level of psychological warfare begins. Professional negotiators in finance and real estate study psychology the way doctors study anatomy. And the most powerful technique they use happens before a single word is spoken. It's called environmental priming. The room you negotiate in, the chair you're given, whether you're offered water or coffee, which side of the table you sit on. All of it is deliberate. All of it is designed to establish a power dynamic before the conversation begins. Research from Columbia Business School found that negotiators who controlled the physical environment of a deal closed 23% more favorable outcomes than those who didn't. even when the financial terms were identical going in. The second technique is strategic silence. Most people are psychologically uncomfortable with silence. They fill it. And every time they fill it, they give away information, make concessions, or reveal their bottom line. Trained negotiators use silence as a weapon. They make an offer. They go quiet. And they wait, while your brain does all the work for them. The third technique is good cop architecture, where one party plays the reasonable warm ally, while a second party holds the hard line. You negotiate against the hard line. You never realize the warm ally is part of the same strategy. These aren't rogue tactics. They're taught, documented, practiced, and used on you every time significant money changes hands. In 2012, a man named Greg Smith walked out of Goldman Sachs, and then he wrote an op-ed in the New York Times that shook the entire financial industry. He described a culture inside one of the most powerful banks in the world, where clients were referred to internally as muppets, where the goal wasn't to serve the client, it was to find out what the client wanted and sell them something that looked like it, while maximizing the firm's profit. He described executives talking openly about how to get clients to invest in products Goldman wanted to offload, using exactly the rapport tactics, urgency frameworks, and identity-based persuasion we've covered today. Goldman Sachs called it culture. Greg Smith called it manipulation. The SEC called it enough of a problem that Goldman later paid $550 million in settlements related to misleading clients. Here's what matters. Goldman Sachs is not unique. They were just the one that got caught with a witness willing to talk. The psychological playbook Smith described is the same one being run in wealth management offices, real estate brokerages, and negotiating rooms right now, today. While you're watching this, now we flip it. Same psychology, opposite direction. Here's how you protect yourself in every room where money is moving. How to negotiate back. First, never negotiate in their environment if you can avoid it. Suggest a neutral location. If you can't, arrive early. Sit with your back to a wall. Take the chair that faces the door. These are not superstitions. They are documented psychological anchors that shift the power dynamic before anyone speaks. Second, master the pause. When an offer is made, say nothing for 10 full seconds. Count silently. Most people cannot handle it and will start talking. What they say in that silence is almost always a concession. Third, never give your number first, ever. Let them anchor, then negotiate from their anchor, not yours. Red flags to spot before you sign anything. If a wealth manager cannot clearly explain how they are compensated in under 60 seconds, walk out. Commission-based advisors have a structural conflict of interest that no amount of rapport can neutralize. If a real estate agent mentions another offer without providing documentation, that urgency is manufactured. Ask for proof. Watch what happens. If anyone in a financial negotiation uses the phrase, "this is only available today," on something that isn't a time-sensitive market instrument, that is a pressure tactic, not a fact. Questions that expose manipulation in real time. Ask your financial advisor, are you a fiduciary? A fiduciary is legally required to act in your interest. Many advisors are not. The ones who aren't will hesitate before answering. Ask your real estate agent, what would you do if this were your money? Watch their eyes. Watch the pause. The answer tells you everything. Ask any negotiator, what's your flexibility on this? Not, can you do better? Flexibility. It reframes the conversation from yes or no to how much. And it almost always opens a door they said didn't exist. The system runs on your silence and your speed. Slow down. Ask more. Reveal less. That's the counter pattern. Here's the through line. The bank that anchored your credit limit. The wealth manager who built relationship capital instead of returns. The real estate agent who sold you a feeling instead of a property. The negotiator who controlled the room before you sat down. They're not different systems. They're the same system, wearing different clothes. And the thread running through all of it is this. They need you to move fast, to feel, to trust without verifying, to decide before you think. The counter to all of it is the same. Slow down. Ask the question they don't want you to ask. And remember, the person across the table from you studied how to read you. So start studying back. If this pattern is something you needed to hear, subscribe. Share this with someone who's about to make a big financial decision. They need this more than they know. Drop a comment. Tell me, which room scares you most? The advisor's office, the closing table, or the negotiating room? The pattern is everywhere. Now you know where to look.